All right, my man had a break. It's Chad Rink there on the other screen there. You see there on the right side. I'm Tito, Jeff Fidoff, Fantasy Football Now, brought to you by Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media. And go to the fantasysports.com website, Fantasy Sports app, free to download for Apple and Android users. Go to the Facebook page, all that stuff. And Chad, I hope you enjoyed your time off. You were just busy. It wasn't like a vacation. You were coaching basketball all over the place, right?
Yeah, so basketball started for I got a junior and a freshman playing down at Circleville, which is like 35 minutes from where I'm at. So it just started, so trying to get that going on, and just some personal stuff around the house, like just things. So I'm like, I can't get things going. But then the wife and the 5-year-old went to Dollywood this week, so I'm like, I got all kinds of time now.
There you go. Perfect.
Just me and the boys.
He's Chad Rink at Chad Ocho Rink on the X. I'm Jeff Fidoff at Fit Happens on the X. So follow us there. But okay, so as we're doing this on Monday evening, the Broncos are somehow defeating the Bills at halftime as we're doing this. And so I don't comment too much on that. The Bills are struggling offensively as they have been for a while. But let's talk about Week 10 before tonight. And I wanted to go through because I was looking at some of the leading scorers from the different positions, and I started to think about like which positions do we feel like we're confident every week that these guys will be top 5, top 10 guys. The top 5 scoring quarterbacks in PPR leagues, not that PPR matters in quarterbacks. No, I'm just saying, but Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, expect those guys up near the top anyway. But then you've got Joshua Dobbs, Sam Howell, and Geno Smith. And Geno's been inconsistent this year. Howell is Sam Howell, and Joshua Dobbs has been a great story, but it's like the quarterbacks. It seems like week by week. I know we got Mahomes was off this week. I get it, right? Hurts was off this week. So there's some big name quarterbacks off, but nonetheless, I don't expect those 3 guys to be in the top 5 on a given week.
No, and the thing with Geno, I had to double check because I was watching that game. Is like they had 3 field goals at halftime. Seattle did,
right?
And so. Like and Prescott, you just knew against the Giants that offense was going to go off. And Herbert, we got to figure Hurts was on bye, Mahomes was on bye, Tua was on bye. So this is a weird week for the quarterback spot on the top 5 because those 3 were out. So, but I think Herbert, that offense is starting to click as long as Allen stays healthy, Eckler's back, and it seems like Dallas is just going to. Tony Pollard does not like the end zone, so they're just going to score from passing, and so Geno, I'm not that. Dobbs, I think it's still smoke and mirrors, but they don't have Madison now. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I think it was I can't remember if it was a concussion or not, but it was I can't remember what he got hurt on.
Well, you think Dobbs is smoke and mirrors?
Like to be like a fantasy top 5 quarterback. I think he's a good solid quarterback. I'm sure the Giants would love to have him, but I think he's kind of more like smoke and mirrors. He can run the ball a little bit. It's going to be interesting because once Jefferson gets back, I think he can really, that's the thing. He's been like, he scored a touchdown this week, which helped. But Jefferson coming back, if he and Jefferson get on the same page, like he could be like sneaky good.
But wait, but I'm getting the sense of the way you're saying it. So, do you think that Dobbs is like Linsanity, where it's going to be like a temporary thing?
Yeah, I think he could end up being the Geno Smith of this year because Geno was top 5 quarterback last year,
right?
And then Geno's probably, I don't know, he's probably 10 to 15 or something,
right?
But I mean, I don't know where he fit in with the Cardinals because the Cardinals were so bad. And I think he had the one good game is against the Giants because everyone has a good game against the Giants. Like, I think Dobbs is a good quarterback, but I don't see him as a fantasy stud going forward. Now with Jefferson coming back, maybe the rest of this year, but then do the Vikings, because he's like 32. I don't know how old he is. Like, do they go with him? Because you figure Cousins, like, I don't know what they do. If they make the playoffs, I think you have to, but I just don't buy the fact that he kind of like he's just burst on the scene. I think it's a Linsanity thing, but I think this year you can ride him.
I think so too. The Jefferson thing is going to be significant when he comes back. That's the other part that I like about it. But the fact he's done this with no running game whatsoever, and he did well in Arizona. He was there. My God, how much do the Browns wish they had him as opposed to pay all the money and all the stuff they give Sean Watson? I think they'd love to have him. I think Dobbs is the real deal. I'm excited about what he's going to do. I'm not going to be a top 5 quarterback every week, but I'm telling you, and if he's there in the waiver wire for your league, go get him. I think I like him a lot the rest of the season, especially with Jefferson coming back. Look, they're a game behind Detroit.
Yeah.
For the lead. They're not going to win the I'll call it the NFC Central still. They're not going to win the NFC Central. But the fact they're in playoff contention right now and Jefferson's coming back to go with Addison, who's really emerged since Jefferson's been out. Okay.
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. Yeah. My God, Hawkinson.
Well, they do have they're at the Broncos, then the Bears, at the Raiders, at the Bengals, and then their last 3 games are Lions, Packers, Lions. So they could win the division if they sweep the Lions and the Lions somehow start to falter. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Okay, so I was thinking about this the other day, and sometimes you'll see in seasons there'll be a guy who bursts out of nowhere and so far overperforms where you drafted him in redraft leagues. I'm talking now, and he's so far overperforms where you drafted him that he could be a league winner for you because you're able to build up other capital in other positions. And I'm wondering, is CJ Stroud that guy this year? Because, if you waited a long time to draft a quarterback, or if the one you drafted, see Allen, Josh, or whatever, has faltered quite a bit, and you had CJ Stroud later on, I mean, he might be a guy who makes a difference in these leagues this year, right?
Yeah, he's been so good. But I think with him, it was either you drafted him as your backup quarterback, so you didn't really upgrade other positions, or you picked him up off the waiver wire, and that's it. So if you picked him up just because he's good, and then you weren't able to flip your other quarterback, it really didn't help you. But if it was something where you waited on quarterbacks and then were able to pick him up, that I think that was huge. So yeah, he's it is I always thought he was going to be better than Bryce Young. I didn't think he'd be this good this early. Yeah, and he's been phenomenal, and he will be a league winner because how can you not start him? Not start him. He has been so good.
Yeah, he's been great. Yes, and another guy who came back this week, and I've been sitting here. I did it in the solo podcast. I've been banging the drum for this guy, but Kyler Murray made his return, and he finished 11th among quarterbacks going into tonight. Not even quarterbacks tonight are going to do crap as far as sneak into the top 11, but so finished 11th among quarterbacks this week, and I was impressed when I saw the way he moved, which is something that's key for him for his value. He's a really good quarterback. He's a good fantasy quarterback without the legs. Add the legs into it if he can do it. He had the 800-yard rushing season a couple seasons ago and 11 touchdowns. But he looked really good against Atlanta.
Yeah, that was the thing that impressed me. I was watching that game, and the way he moved. That was the key. I was like, okay, how is he going to look? But he could get out of the pocket, scramble around, moving. Yep. It's just trying to get back. He had his throws, just a little off just because he was a little bit rusty, but he did look good, and that team's going to be better. I tell you, with that McBride kid at tight end, he looks like he's the real deal. So I think if you picked him up, or if you have Hollywood Brown, that could be a guy down the stretch that could help out as well. But yeah, if you picked up Murray or kept him. He looks like he could be a viable starter.
That was a comment I made in the podcast, was that, in 2020, yes, when he had the great rushing year, the 800 yards, the 11 touchdowns, and a good passing year. So he threw for over 3,700 yards his first 3 years in the leagues, averaged 23 touchdown passes a year. When 2020, he had DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. Granted, aging Larry Fitzgerald, but nonetheless, those are the two. And now he comes back. He's got Brown and Trey McBride as his top 2 weapons, and is it going to work? And clearly it did. McBride, I agree with you. He kept going to him over and over. It was a security blanket for him. And it was awesome to see that. So McBride, we'll talk about tight ends here in a little bit, but he is a top waiver wire pickup if he's out there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
On the quarterback thing, though, so if you screwed up drafting quarterbacks this year, if the guy you drafted first bombed out, didn't do well, or got hurt, or whatever, if you had an issue with that, or if you waited too long, and with Deshaun Watson, who I don't care about the second half of the Baltimore game. Deshaun Watson sucks. Right. But if you did that, though, if you needed a mulligan on quarterbacks, you've got Dobbs, you've got Kyler Murray, you've got Sam Howell that are all guys who you could get or could have gotten that would have helped you out of this situation you might be in as far as quarterback goes. I don't remember a year where you've had that many opportunities to upgrade the quarterback you drafted this late in the season.
No, and I heard someone on one of the shows, the pregame show, or something talk about there's been 47 different starting quarterbacks this year, which is just outrageous that there's been that many, and it started the game,
right?
Like, so there's been, I think, like 45 or 46 just total quarterbacks that have played and come in. But
Dan Patrick said on his show 60 going into this week. They did it like a stats and research thing. 60 different players have attempted to pass the NFL this year.
Oh wow, okay, wow,
it's amazing.
Okay.
But you're right. The number of starting quarterbacks is huge too. But just the fact that you have guys that get hurt during the games.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of some of the major guys like Rodgers getting hurt, Cousins getting hurt, and then there's just been such bad quarterback play. Like I was watching Zach Wilson yesterday, and I'm like, man, it's bad. And then talking to my brother today, he's like, we're talking about why did they even put in Zappe on that last drive? Because it wasn't really. I mean, Jones is bad. There's just so many. Like in Jordan Love, who we thought could be something, is not. So there's just a lot of bad quarterbacks, and then the Fields getting hurt. So it's just, this is just a weird year, I think, for that. I don't see that going forward. Plus, you figure like guys like Kyler starting off injured. So it's just a lot of weird stuff that happened. And then you had all the rookie quarterbacks and those types of things. So I think it's just a weird year for that. I don't see that going forward a lot.
Top 5 running backs this week were Brian Robinson Jr. with 115 receiving yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, who we thought might take a step back with Dave Montgomery coming in, but he certainly didn't. Devin Singletary, Austin Eckler, and CMC. There were 2 Steelers running backs in the top 10, which, with how poorly the Steelers ran the ball earlier in the season, that's a bit of a surprise, but that's also the Steelers' recipe for winning is running the ball. The Jahmyr Gibbs thing, the fact that he has – look, better than Bijan this year, right?
He has. And, I don't know if it's because that offense is just better or the play calling is better for him. I mean, Bijan looked good this past game. He finally got the usage. My fear is going to be because Arthur Smith is an idiot. He's going to say, see, I gave Bijan all this work and we lost. So the way I was doing it was better, and it's not. But no, Gibbs has looked good the last couple. I just think it's because he's gotten more, I guess, better usage, and the fact that Montgomery was out, so there was no other competition there for the last couple of weeks. And then Montgomery ran even a 75-yarder. So, Gibbs has looked good. Bijan did look good. I mean, he had over 20 carries, I believe. I just don't think they're using him properly.
Well, and they've got a bye week now coming up. Atlanta does, but I think Gibbs better at this point. But who would you rather have the rest of the season? I think I'd rather have Robinson the rest of the season, the bye week notwithstanding. I just think when they're both playing the rest of the year because of Montgomery, I think I'd want Robinson the rest of the year. But Gibbs has been great. Yeah,
I think so too. Just because Montgomery's going to eat into it. They've got better weapons in the passing game as well. So I think I would like Bijan more than Gibbs rest of this year. And I think even in Dynasty, I'd still want Bijan over Gibbs.
I think I do also. I think I do as well. Among the wide receivers, Keenan Allen was number 1, CeeDee Lamb. God, Lamb's been fantastic this year.
Unreal.
Brandon Cooks, shock there, but because obviously with Dak doing what he does, Brandon Cooks, who I've pimped all year, and drafted him late, and I thought this guy's going to be a stud. And then I get rid of him. And then this happens. And then Sun God is 4th, Mike Evans 5th. So not any – I mean, the Brandon Cooks is a surprise in there, but the other guys, though, you would expect them to be up there. The Cooks, not sustainable. I mean, if you want to grab him if you're desperate, I guess, but I don't expect Cooks to do anything close to this in a game the rest of the year.
No, the other guys are all, you expect. Yeah, Cooks was just, I think, an off thing. I was just looking like the Commanders are playing the Giants next week, so just load up on McLaurin. Hopefully Jahan Dotson, man. He either gets you like 5 catches or no. They don't. So he'll blow up. He'll have like 118 and a touchdown or something next week. But I think of all the positions, I think the receiver position has been the most consistent and the most unsurprising, I guess, for the most part. I think it's like, Tyreek's been good. We thought Addison would be good. He's showing he's good. There hasn't really been that, like, Puka Nacua is really the only, I think, real surprise. But then he's kind of, cooled off here.
Right.
Once Cup's been back. So I think that's why the people that do the no running back strategy do it, because for the most part the receivers usually stay healthy, and they're the ones you can kind of predict the most year in, year out.
Noah Brown, last 2 games for the Texans, 13 catches, 325 yards and a touchdown, back-to-back games over 150 yards.
Yeah.
And we talked about Stroud earlier. If I was thinking about this, and we just talked about Brandon Cooks, who would you rather have the rest of the year, Noah Brown or Brandon Cooks?
I think Brandon Cooks, because I believe Collins was out this last game, and I thought he might have been out before he got hurt. So, and I think, because, like, again, if you look at what Stroud's done, he's been great. He's only had, I think, 3. He might have had 3. This might have been his 4th game over 300 yards, but he's only had, I think, 4. His first 2 games were over 300. He threw for that, like, crazy 400-yard game, and then I think he threw for 300 against the Bengals. So the rest of the games he hasn't thrown for over 300. I think if Collins comes back, he'll eat into Noah Brown's targets. And I think the Cowboys offense just is more explosive. So I think I'd rather have Cooks the rest of the year over Noah Brown.
Going to looking at the tight ends then, you've got the top 5. TJ Hawks, we talked about him. Trey McBride, we talked about him. Kittle, Tyler Conklin, Jake Ferguson. And I'm with you. The more I look at these lists and things, I look at them every week where the people are. And you're right, the wide receiver is the most consistent. Obviously, this week you had some guys off when you had Goddard off, but more importantly, Travis Swift was off. But it's with the tight end situation, like McBride's your guy you want to pick up. But, man, this year with the tight ends, too, they've been very inconsistent. The Darren Waller thing, who I think a lot of people love, myself included, I loved him, and he's been hurt. With Darren Waller, would you cut him?
Oh, yeah, because I think
the IR thing's out for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, but you and I think, could be a better quarterback than Danny DeVito. So
that was so bad. You're right there.
Yeah. So Waller, you should just cut. Like, and this kind of goes to show what we talked about early in the year. If you can't get that Hawkinson, Kelsey, Andrews, like, just wait, because you can always just luck into a guy, or you stream him. And, like, Waller was kind of up in there because we really thought, his thing was just, I think Danny Jones getting hurt just killed him.
I think so too.
And even like you're not dropping Barkley, but Barkley now is almost useless, because, I mean, he had 30 carries that one game and he still didn't really do much. And this Giants offense, I don't think if they've scored a first half touchdown yet. I don't remember. I think they have.
It would surprise
I don't know.
Did.
They like that offense is just it's horrible. And I don't know why they're sticking with DeVito. Why not go get somebody? There's got to be an XFL quarterback that's out there.
You would think, yes. There's got to be somebody better out there who's not playing right now.
Right.
Hell, they could have gotten they could have gotten Carson Wentz a while back. You know what I mean? They could have gotten somebody like that before too. Plenty of guys they could have gotten. Okay, so let's transition now to some injury news. And look, you grabbed him. If you grabbed him, you loved him. Then you hated him because he got hurt. But the Devin Achane window is open now.
Yeah,
he is back at he's now off the. He's on the IR, so like he's designated out of return. So they've got 21 days to determine whether they want to put him on the active roster, or then like there's other weird shit they got to he's done for the year, that kind of thing. So but he's going to play again. God, it's hard to imagine he's going to come right in. Speaking of Linsanity, and do what he was doing before, but the Dolphins are scary when they have him back.
They are, and the fact that now he's already been off bye, I would not expect much for him this week. I mean, if you have to play him,
we don't need to play this week yet or not.
If he plays, if you're the Dolphins, you probably can wait a week because they're still like 6-3 or 6-4 or 6-3, something like that.
They're good, yeah.
So I think you'd hold off a week. but he's looked like he's been a full participant. But yeah, if you have him and you're still in a playoff hunt, you're just hoping that he comes back and he can keep doing it, because he was averaging, I think, 13 yards a rush, which is just
ridiculous.
Unreal.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and he's just that guy. So yeah, you're hoping that he comes back this week. I think if he's cleared to play this week, I think you play him, just because he could bust a 60-yard touchdown off, and then that's worth it.
Bijan's off, Jonathan Taylor's off,
yep,
and Alvin Kamara's off, also Stevenson. Stevenson's off too for New England. So Miami this week hosts Las Vegas. So yeah, if he's going to play, I think you probably will play him there as well.
Right.
But quarterback front, Stafford expected to play this week. Derek Carr and Heineke both got injured, so we're not sure what their status is. Carr's in concussion protocol, so it might be a Desmond Ridder sighting in Atlanta, and it could be another famous Jameis Winston thing in New Orleans. And he had a couple picks late, but he was thrown all over the place. But it's going to – I don't know how much it's going to hurt. Let's look at the Saints now. Michael Thomas is hurt. I know Marshall Lattimore on the defensive side is hurt. Doesn't matter too much. But let's start with Winston. If Winston's the quarterback, do you drop Olave much in your rankings? I don't think I do, because I think Winston still look to him. But what would you think?
No, I think Olave had one target with Carr, and then Winston, he got him 9 targets in 12 minutes or something. So the good news, I don't think it's going to matter, because I think with Carr, they said his shoulder spine is more concussion, so they got to bye this week. So
I think it's a bye,
to figure that out. But if Winston has to play, I think that helps Olave, because he's just going to let it rip. And I think it helps Shaheed too, because he's just going to, it was so weird watching him. He came in that drive, like, why is he not starting? And then 3 plays later, like, oh, that's why he's not starting.
That's the reason. Yeah, that's why. Now we figured it out. Right. And it won't affect the Atlanta situation at all, because they don't pass the ball well anyway. So
no,
it's not really going to change anything. You can't really have less value than the Falcons receivers and tight ends have as it is. Deshaun Watson, MRI on his left ankle. And he was so bad in that game until the first half. He was so awful. Yeah. It was so I was ready to roast Browns fans and all that stuff. And then he went 14 for 14 in the second half.
Right.
But I'm not buying Deshaun Watson at all. If I had Deshaun Watson on my bench and he was deemed healthy, I would find the biggest Browns fan in my league and say, hey, he was 14 for 14. He's back.
Right.
What are you going to give me for him? And if you want to send me a bag of baseballs, I'll do it.
Right. Yeah, I think if you have Watson, if you have a guy as a Browns fan, look to sell him now. I would almost take Jordan Love over Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah.
Although it could be something like I would take, take anything for Love, but I may not take that. So
there we go. 80s reference. Yes. That's outstanding. I made 80s reference on my Buckeye Blitz podcast today, because I said that nice. Jim Harbaugh, or the Michigan, is just like Barry Bonds and Milli Vanilli. You can say Bonds would be in the Hall of Fame no matter what, if that's steroids or not. You can say Milli Vanilli, hey, they might be great if they just sang the songs themselves, but we'll never know, because they cheated.
They cheated.
Right. I made a Milli Vanilli reference there.
Excellent.
Okay, let's look at waiver wire pickups for this week now. We mentioned Trey McBride was a big one. I'm telling you, if Dobbs is in your league, go get him. If Kyler Murray's in your league, go get him, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, those two. Yeah. Especially if you need a quarterback. Even if you don't, you might as well pick one up, especially if your quarterback hasn't been on bye yet, or if you've got like a Geno Smith type guy. I think I'd rather have Dobbs and Murray over like a Geno Smith, Baker.
Me too.
Kind of those type of guys. Yeah.
Me too. Over Deshaun for sure. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
They're over Zach Wilson, obviously, over whoever's quarterbacking the Raiders, all those things. Yes. I'd rather have those guys over them.
I can think like Russell Wilson today. I think even him. So
yeah,
it's just interesting at this point, like who's still out there. Like you're probably not Keaton Mitchell's probably now off the board after his huge game and then having like 2 carries for a touchdown. Yeah. And there's probably no other running back. Ty Chandler.
I would say Ty Chandler might be one. Devin Singletary's got to be gone, right?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
But if he's not, he looks like he is now the clear number 1.
Right. Ty Chandler, yes. Ty Chandler is the one who I would say is probably the most realistic running back pickup. And Minnesota's offense, playing meaningful football right now. That's the other thing you want to see. I mean, as a Barkley owner, I'm scared to death they're going to pull the plug on some point, or he'll pull the plug on some point and say, you know what? I don't have a long-term deal. I don't want to sit here and get 30 touches in a game that I'm going to lose 49-17 or whatever it may be. So you got to be aware of those things too, to have backup plans for these running backs as the season wears on. I think Ty Chandler, I think that's a good one. I got to believe Singletary's gone. Yeah. I can't see any other.
I don't either. And I'm even wide receivers, I don't think, if Quentin
Noah Brown's out there.
Noah Brown's out there. Quentin Johnson could be. And I mean, I think they're going to start getting him involved more. And Allen went out, but he came back in. Right. And then he still put up big numbers. But I think Johnson, especially with Palmer being out, is one to kind of look at, because there's, again, that offense. If Brandon Cooks happens to be out there, like someone may have dropped him before yesterday. So, just always look, because, again, always look and see who gets dropped is a big one. But there's not, at this point of the year, it's just like going to be like who gets injured. And then just try to find their backup. So try to get ahead of the game on some things. Like I got too far ahead of the game on Keaton Mitchell, and then I dropped him before his big game. But
you're good at that.
Like, I am good at that.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. So especially coming down the stretch, like you said, like, okay, is Barkley going to play the last handful of games? So those are kind of things you want to start thinking about now. And if you have roster spots, like I did that with Heineke in a couple leagues because I knew he was going to take Ritter's spot. And then I just was like, well, it doesn't matter, because you said Falcons are horrible at throwing the ball, and Heineke's not even that good. But it was just one of those types of deals. So that's the kind of stuff you want to look on the waiver wire. And really, if you're trading, like this is the kind of time. Like, listen, you need to look to make some trades to solidify your team, because that's a better way to do it than on the waiver wire at this point in the season.
And if you're in a dynasty league and you're out of contention, either out of contention or so far out in front your team's loaded, go to the teams that are contending for playoff berths and try to pick off if they drafted anybody who got hurt this year, who's on IR, a Nick Chubb or some rookie, quarterback in Indianapolis. Give me a name.
Anthony Richardson.
I want to say Trent Richardson. I'm glad I didn't. But go out there and look for Trent Richardson. You don't want, but make an offer to Anthony Richardson guy and see if you can grab somebody, grab him that way, and just see if you can make some plays, either if you're out of it or way ahead and you're in great spot. Fortify your future by doing things like that in the dynasty leagues. So, all right, let's do it again this week, Chad. What do you say?
Sounds good.
We'll knock out another one. He is Chad Rink at Chad Ochorenko. Wife and baby are out of town, so we'll have more time this week. And follow him on the X at Chad Ochorenko. I'm at It Happens. This has been Fantasy Football Now, FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media.